And we'll allow Mom to interject as necessary,
Yes.
unless she says too much, and then we'll have to
We
cut her out.
I promise I wouldn't say a word.
The light is green, Marie.
So what we did is we compiled a bunch
I
of
know.
questions just through the group when you weren't looking, when you were sleeping probably. And we came up with some questions for you, and you just answer them the best you can. And well, we'll just start off. Oh, there you go. You got notes. We did give you some heads up on
Yeah,
that.
so, yeah, wasn't totally
right.
unprepared.
So the first question is, when you were a kid, did they have chairs? And if so,
Cheers.
were they electric?
Who asked me?
No, that's obviously a joke. We know that they
Hey,
weren't
just keep it up, you know.
they probably weren't invented until
Yeah.
well into your teens.
Well, I did give them.
All right, so we wanted you to recollect, if you can, maybe a funny story from your childhood.
All right, well, there's not, I mean, a lot of stuff I did was funny. But
You can feel free
it
to.
was odd funny. But one of the things that I did when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, I was with my Uncle Lorne and his wife at the time, and my parents were all in a car by a farm. And the windows are down, it's hot, and the cow is mooing, moo, you know, like that. And of course my eyes got big as saucers, and I said, Uncle Lorne, roll up the window, the horse, she's a-barking. And of course they all laughed, you know, and I wondered why, you know. So the other funny thing, which was, I'll give it to, was my Aunt Mildred. I think it was, I don't know if she was my aunt or not, but anyway, she had a lot of facial hair. And I said to my mom, she was coming over, and I said, Mom, do you think I could ask her if she shaves? She says, don't you dare. So she comes over, and what do? Mildred, do you shave? Of course, I took a few lickings for that. So yeah, that's a couple of, not everything
How
I
did
did
she
was
answer
funny
the
or
question?
odd.
Yeah, did she answer the question?
Well,
Did she seem
yeah,
startled?
she was embarrassed for sure. I mean, I was still living in Detroit, so I wasn't
25.
7. You know, it's kind of like the joke about the guy who was growing a mustache and a beard, and he's well, why are you growing a mustache and a beard? He says, I'm having a race with my mother. He says, well, don't you think that's a little unfair? He says, I don't think so. She won. Okay, that's Steve Allen. All right.
Those are good. I like those. What's your favorite color, by the way,
My favorite color.
if you have one? Or
Well,
color?
it used to be red. I think I tend a lot towards the blues, you know, the blue color. I mean, I really don't have a favorite color.
Can you expand on that?
What about scents? What's your favorite scent?
Actually,
Shoes
keep
and-
interjecting. You're doing
Sure.
well.
No, this is good.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember about like the houses you lived in, whether it was growing up or even through adulthood, or if you want to just take us through that kind of history, where you started off?
Was that the one who asked me about the Wheaton house and the other houses? Is that the
Well,
question?
it says, what was your best or favorite part about living in Michigan, Wheaton,
Oh,
and Atlanta?
okay,
You can combine those if you want.
Well,
You know, just kind of take us through.
in Michigan, I lived in Carroll, and I was born in a house at an early age, so I could be close to my mother. You know? But
And aren't you from Buffalo?
yeah, but they're from regular parents. Yeah. Anyway, no, I was born in a house on Millwood Street, and I don't remember anything about it. My brother Doug has a picture of it
In Carroll.
in Carroll, Michigan, and then we moved, and I can't remember the name of the place, but it was the place where I first remember something. And I was, my first memory was in that house, and I woke up crying, and my dad came in and put the covers over on me and ruffled my feathers and stuff like that. And the reason I was crying was because every time I'd turn over, the bed would squeak. The bed would squeak, so I started crying, and Dad came in, and whatever you do with a 2 or 3 year old at that age,
You spank them.
spank them. So, but then I remember that all the boys, there were 4 boys, and Dad would get a big tub and put it on the kitchen table, and we all take baths in that. So that's how. And then when I lived in Gibbs Street, that was the next house I moved to, and my 2 recollections there. There was a bat in the room, and Mom tucked me under the bed and went around and chased the bat and killed it, you know. And then the next thing was, I thought it would be a good thing that we found a can of black paint. And I thought it would be a nice thing to help the neighbors out by painting their house. Of course, they didn't like it at all, but I honestly thought I was doing them a favor. I mean, we were kids, you know. So, and then we moved to Detroit.
About how old?
Well, about 7 or 8, maybe 6. That was the big war was going on, World War II. I had a sailor suit. Whoops.
It's good.
That's all right.
Right. It's
That'll
good.
be it.
No, that's good. Oh, and you know what?
Hey!
I forgot, we were not recording, so let's start over. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. You're good.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
So did
That
I.
was during World War II.
World War II.
Get out of
And,
here. Go.
My dad was working at Packard Motor Company making parts for the Packard engine, which powered the P-51. And so we lived there. I remember my dad making $90 a week. Big money. Big money back then. And anyway, what was I going to say about that? Well, my Uncle Ivan lived with us. He was epileptic. And one time he was down in the living room, and Ralph, my younger brother Ralph, was in a playpen. And my folks just went and pulled him out, and the guy fell right into the playpen. He had a seizure at that time. That wasn't obviously funny, but there was an experience that I really remembered. The other thing, I hate to tell this on myself, but my Aunt Doll,
Her name was Aunt Doll.
Aunt Doll, she was my dad's oldest brother's wife. They came in there, and Dwayne and I stole $5 out of her purse.
That's a lot of money.
It was, back then it was huge.
It's like copping 40, $50 now.
Yeah, it was huge, you know, we thought we were rich. And so Doug, I don't know, the parents went somewhere, probably to church. And Doug was there with us, and we tried to tell Doug to get out of there, you know, because we wanted to go get some ice cream, you know, at the local confectionery, or whatever you call it. And so he suspected something, so he goes out the door, and we take off, Dwayne and I, and go get some big sundaes, and we're sitting there with ice cream sundaes eating away, you know. And we turn around, and there's Doug, and he's going, "Hello, boys." Well, we had to pay that money back, by the way. Anyway, it wasn't a nice thing to think about, but Aunt Doll forgave me. Later on, when she was down in Illinois, I flew her back to Adrian, Michigan in a tri-pisser. So she forgave me, I guess.
You didn't charge her.
Didn't charge her,
There you
yeah, $5 I charged her. She, the big thing about living in that house was all the boys were in an attic. It was, you went up the steps, it was unfinished attic, but we had 3 or 4 beds up there. Parents were downstairs, 1 bathroom in the house. So we couldn't be bothered about going downstairs to the bathroom at night, so we went to the end of the attic, opened the window, and that was our bathroom. Anyway, we thought we were putting something over on the parents, but they knew about it all along. So anyway, then we moved to West Chicago. that little house there,
How old were you about that point?
exactly 10. Exactly 10. Moved down there in 1947, March 1st. I remember that day vividly because the first thing I did when I got out of the car there, I went to the back and threw up. You know, so it was right along a railroad track. The trains would come by there in the middle of the night, and I thought they were going right through the bedroom. You know, they were that close. Did you guys ever remember seeing that
Yeah, that
place?
was off of 59, right?
Yeah, and that house burnt down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the vivid memories I have there is these tramps coming up and asking for food. And of course, probably gave them some. But another thing was laying out on the front porch in the summertime. We'd sleep out there and getting the heck scared out of us by screech owls. You guys ever hear a screech owl?
They screech really
Well,
loud.
they really do. Yeah, that scared us. So that house burnt down with somebody in it. Killed them.
Really?
Yeah. It's no longer there. See, from there, I guess we got married, right? So lived in Wheaton in a kind of a one-bedroom apartment, right? I mean, it was
It was a studio.
studio apartment. So
Is that on President Street, near there?
yeah,
Or by Waltz?
it was on
Close to President.
it was on President.
It
Well, it wasn't
It was on
President.
College,
College Avenue. Yeah.
next to the church.
Okay. We've
College
talked
Church?
about that long.
No,
enough.
no, not College Church, that little chapel. It was
Gotcha.
on President. Yeah.
All right.
Of course, we went then to New York. That's where Jeff was born. I got laid off from United, got hired by Eastern, went out to New York. Jeff was born out there with 2 years. Came back to Wheaton. You were born there, and Tim. And eventually we picked up Brooke and when she was about 2. And she was born in Illinois up at Northbrook. Close.
Evanston?
Evanston, yeah. So that's kind of the history of where I lived, other than Atlanta, and everybody knows that stuff. We moved to Atlanta, 1985?
Yeah.
And then we were there until February.
And where do you live now?
We live in a over 55 community here in Cornelius, North Carolina.
All right.
Yeah, just moved in.
All right, very good. Do you happen to recall any stories that your grandparents might have told you when you were growing up? Do you remember much about your grandparents? Getting to see them?
Well, I only had my maternal grandparents, on mom's side. And all I can really tell you about my grandpa was he was kind of an, scowly kind of guy. He wasn't real crazy about kids, I don't think. But the biggest thing I remember about him is he could sharpen a pencil like a pencil sharpener. He was that good. He was a good carpenter. But
Use the knife?
yes, with a knife. And grandma was just kind of grandma, bake, cook, watch the kids. And
What?
Hey, we have an extra bed.
anyway, no, I don't remember a whole lot
And-
about him. She was a good Christian gal, though, my grandma. Love the Lord, and was a feisty gal.
The,
Yeah, she raised 4 boys and a girl. So.
the grandparents on the other side were deceased?
Yes.
Yeah, that would
I
be
never
Doug.
knew them. Yeah, that would be Dad's side. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did we already ask you about an embarrassing moment in your life?
Embarrassing. Yes. No, you didn't.
Let's ask that.
Well, I'll give you a couple examples. The first one was when I was in about the 7th or 8th grade. I was taking piano lessons from a gal over at the academy, and I went over there and took the piano lessons, and I wasn't any good, but I mean, I did memorize, or thought I had memorized the song for the recital. And do you remember the kind of a sitting area there at the academy? You'd walk through, and there was everybody kind of lounge around, and It went down.
Turned into
Yeah.
the senior lounge, maybe?
Yeah,
that's probably
okay,
it.
that's where we had our recital. And of course, I get down there and I'm playing away and playing away and playing away, and I get to one spot and nothing comes. So I sit there hoping it would come, and it never did. And so I started crying and got up and left. What else can you do? I mean, the song had ended for
Yeah, you
me.
did the same thing.
So, the other embarrassing thing was, and it took me a long time to tell this story, was when I was flying a Constellation. I was a brand new co-pilot on Eastern Airlines, and I went to, this flight went from LaGuardia to Baltimore, Washington, to Washington, to Huntington, West Virginia, Lexington, Kentucky, and maybe someplace else, but then it wound up in Louisville. But I flew the legs into Washington and did a really nice job. It was windy and everything, and it was landing on that northwest short runway. The captain just let me go, you know, and then came to fly into Charleston West. You ever been to Charleston West?
Charlie West.
Yeah, Charlie West. It's named after the guy that broke the speed of sound. First guy.
Right.
Yeager, right?
Huh?
Chuck Yeager?
Chuck Yeager.
Yeah, Charlie Yeager.
Anyway, it wasn't that then, but it sat up on a bluff, you know, and if you landed short, you're dead, you know, because it dropped off severely. So I was aware of that, and was at night, and I'd never been in there, but I knew about the bluff, and I came in a little too high, and it was a little long, and then bang, I hit, and it bounced, I don't know, 50 feet in the air, and the guy took it around, which was a great move, you know, because I don't know how many times we would have bounced, you know, before he stopped it. But we took it around, came back, he took the airplane, landed it, and he got up, went back, and somebody said, "What happened?" He says, "Oh, there was a deer on the runway." So he covered for me. Really nice guy. He didn't chew me out or anything. He understood, I think. The guy must have been 50, 55, thought he was an old guy. You know? And, but he was a real gentleman about it. He says, "You know what? Just let me fly there for me." And I was happy to have him do that. But that was embarrassing. And of course, to any professional pilot, that would be. So, yeah.
The question is, what gives you gas? I'm kidding, of course. I thought briefly,
Is this about me or you?
trying to get you to laugh. No, yeah, that would be long if it was about me. Yes, indeed. Real quick, why don't you tell us how you met Mom and how that courtship went and everything?
Yeah. Well, we met probably in 1959, maybe a little, 58.
58.
We met at the Wheaton roller rink, or was it Wheaton roller rink?
Well, it was a roller rink.
The roller rink on Bloomingdale Road and North.
Villa Park.
Remember that?
No, it wasn't Villa
No.
Park,
No, it
it was
wasn't Villa
Glen Ellen, between
Oh,
Glen
Glen Ellen,
Ellen
is it
and
Glen
Wheaton, yeah.
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 We met there.
North Avenue.
Roller
We skated together. Carlin was there, and I'd ask him for the last skate. It was a triple, and of course, I think I skated and never fell over. You know, any of the times I skated with you, did I?
No, no, you were good.
So we met there. One of our first dates. Well, it might have been a flying date, right?
Yeah, it was.
It was a flying date, and did Carlin go? It scared the pants off of her, I think, because she's not too crazy about flying anyway. But I took her up for a ride. But the one big thing was we went to the Trotters at
Maywood.
Maywood. Trotters being horses that have a little
Cart behind.
Harness race,
back
harness
and
race.
stuff like that. So we got there, we were with Bill and Dorothy Gross, and they weren't married at the time, but we bet on a horse called, and I'll never forget the name, Pronto Hell. And we got together, and this thing won $14 it paid. I mean, back in
And we only put in $2.
yeah, $2. I mean, that was enough to buy steak dinners for everybody and everything else. It was quite a thrill. So, the only the other thing, when we got engaged, we went and saw Ben-Hur,
A movie?
the movie, Ben-Hur, and my mom was not too crazy about that. But
That you went to a movie?
yeah. And, but it was a great movie, and it was a great time, and we had a lot of fun. But,
When did you know that she was going to be the gal you were going to marry?
when she told me,
I knew he was gonna say that. You wanna tell that story?
well, I mean, actually, you should tell that story.
No.
Maybe you want to.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Jump
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, he wanted to break up with me, and I just wouldn't let him. I just said, no way. I mean, you're the one for me, and so, he kind of acquiesced and, said, okay.
Yeah, in a
He
way.
wanted to give us more time. And
Yeah, that was it.
I said,
I
we've
wasn't.
had enough time.
I wanted to think about it a little bit more. I tell you, you don't argue with her. She just says, in so many words, there's no way you're going to do that. Okay.
Well, that explains it.
That explain a lot. Yeah. So, yeah, she knows what she wants.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
What? So you've been married for 60-some,
Oh, no.
57.
57 years?
No, not
56.
56.
56 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it looks like it was a good choice.
yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking, in your life, what is one of your maybe favorite vacations or favorite vacation destinations that you've been to that you really enjoyed going with
That's easy.
or going to? Yeah?
That's easy, just like you guys have. Mammoth Mountain's probably right there at the top of the list,
Yeah, that was nice.
right?
Yeah.
I can still remember Brooke coming down that one mountain and looking back at her and that beautiful blue sky. Remember that? And then the big valley,
I think she was 4.
Yeah.
4 years old.
And
Went skiing
her
with
nose
that
was
with
as
her.
big as a watermelon from the heat.
Oh, yeah, you got a bad burn.
No, not her nose, her lips. Her
Lips,
you know.
yeah, face.
Lips, nose.
Well, we had put her in
Yeah.
ski school,
Yeah.
all week long. We hadn't skated with her, because she'd been in school. And all of a sudden, here she is on the last day, skating down with her class, way above us.
Yeah. So that's a great vacation. Skiing is a great family get together. We did enjoy Hawaii, and we did enjoy Puerto Rico and the Gulf. I really liked Puerto Rico. I mean, if you get a chance, it's a great place to go.
Is there any place?
It's all those Puerto Ricans down there. It makes it tough.
Is there any place on your to-go list that you if you had a chance to go on vacation that you'd still like to go to? That
Well,
maybe you never did or haven't yet.
having traveled around the world like I have, there's still a lot of different places to go. But I'd like to take a cruise sometime, maybe to Italy or maybe up to where was it we mentioned? Sweden or
Sweden,
Switzerland?
Norway,
Norway. Yeah.
Sweden,
Uh,
Alaska.
yeah. Something like that'd be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, switching gears a little bit. So, what person outside this room has had the greatest impact on your life and why?
Well, and it chokes me up because it's got to be Doug. The guy's been like a father to me, and just such a gentleman and such a caring guy. And just reinforced it living there the last few months. But Doug, and not that my parents weren't interested, but man, there were 7 boys, How you gonna fixate on one, Plus I was a troublemaker anyway. But he realized that I needed some guidance. He took the time to call me up and say, let's go to school. And so that's how my aviation career started, was because Doug insisting I do something. And I'm forever grateful. And another guy who was part of that was a guy by the name of Jimmy Raz. and he worked for Rush, I think it was Rush Motors there in Wheaton. And Jimmy Raz knew me. I was working for Carlson Chevrolet and the Buick dealer. And I was waffling on whether I should go to school or not. He said, get your fanny down there. You know, quit this job. It's a no-win thing. So I don't know where Jimmy is these days, but I'm grateful for his input and insistence that I do stuff. So,
Good. Well, along those lines, so why, and I think this relates to Doug here, why did you become a pilot? And after that, is there anything else you may have liked to have done if you hadn't done that?
well,
But first, how did you decide to be a pilot?
I'm preaching to the choir here,
Yeah.
you know, and it's such a super job. I mean, it's so, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, you're your own boss, you make the decisions, you have good time off and the money's good. And just to spite my teacher who said I would never go anywhere sitting in class looking out the window at the clouds. So that's where I wound up, sitting out the window. And if there was an alternative, as you guys know, I like to entertain. I probably would have, I don't know, gone into some kind of entertainment. In fact, that I did a little bit of it, but
Do you
that would have
keep,
been a fun career.
do you keep in touch with Jim Baker?
Jimmy Baker.
Nah, he hasn't called
He
me
hasn't
since he
called
got
you.
out of
Okay.
jail.
I just-
Well, that would suit you, you know, with your singing and everything through the
Right.
years. You've always had a
Yeah.
flair for that,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I don't know how many of you guys knew, I did do the PTL club one night. Did you all know that? Okay, so,
Austin doesn't know what the PTO
The
club
boys,
is.
Oh.
So it was,
Praise the Lord, isn't it?
yeah, Praise the Lord Club, it was a TV show that originated right out of here in
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about it after we get off
Off the air.
off the air.
well, if we're gonna talk about praise the Lord, we may as well segue into this. So what would be your favorite Bible verse or / hymn, or one of them through the years?
Well, you know, favorite Bible verses are just hard to pin it down to one.
True.
You know, a favorite hymn would be probably Victory in Jesus, you know, which, of course, I had the album named that.
And was that, did you write that song, Victory in Jesus?
No.
There were some songs on that album that you wrote though, right?
Yeah, I wrote,
Cherries.
yeah, Ripe Cherries from a Tree, you know, God's Promises, yeah, I wrote that. But my favorite Bible verse is one of maybe 3 or 4, but it's Psalm 112:7. And it sustained me many times. I will not fear evil tidings, my heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord, you know. So whatever circumstances arrive, that's kind of my go-to verse. You know, I'll go back to that one. Right now, as I approach 80, let me just, as I approach 80, I mean, I'm past it now. By the way, there you are, kid.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I want to, this is the one I'm believing for the next 10 years. And it says, Proverbs 9:10, the fear of the Lord, or the respect of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me, which is wisdom, your days will be multiplied, and the years of your life will be added to you. So I'm hanging on to that verse for the next 10 anyway, okay?
Very good.